I said,
already have a picture of it, so.
okay.
See anybody out here, I know it's beautiful. If y'all would, let's stay in safe place.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Turn it up. Six green.
Oh, it's up all the way.
So a bit closer to us.
We got a request by Councilman Control for moving C and D on the consent agenda down to C and D in the regular agenda for discussion. Go ahead. Okay.
There a second?
Yeah, we got a second. Okay, we got a second. Favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Council comments, we got council comments? Hearing none this time. Staff update.
Done.
I'll be brief. Just to give everyone an update on the park recovery, since, the aftermath of Tropical Storm Helene, that as many of you may have seen going by, that currently dog park, the soccer fields are currently, there's some work being done on some of the soccer fields, and you may see that, but the dog park is now open. The shelters are now open and available. And as well as the baseball, as well as the basketball. So the baseball field is going to still be under construction for a little while as well. Another item is just, you may notice that the meadow and the area on the southern, or on the bottom section of the park it's currently closed and it will be closed for a while longer. There's quite a bit of work that's going to be done down in that area. So that's going to be a longer haul project, but we have already started working on that. And so just want to let you all know that we have already started the recovery efforts within there, but it's going to be a little bit longer when it comes to storm debris removal and getting that to safety for our residents. The other thing I want to bring up briefly is storm debris removal. Storm debris removal is currently happening in the town of Mills River and across Henderson County. So you will be seeing storm debris removal vehicles hopefully on your street soon if you have not seen them already. The requirement is that vegetative debris and other debris from the storm must be in the right of way. So again, that as long as the debris can get it from wherever it's at to the right of way, it will be picked up. There is some questions about whether or not are they only going to come once, when are they going to come, etc. They will come through as many times as necessary to pick up storm debris. So again, I know that quite a few people may have multiple loads that need to go to the right of way. Just want to reassure you, they will continue to come back as much as as fast as possible, but they will continue to come back and pick up storm debris for as long as it takes. So with that, that concludes my comments.
I would add to that, try to keep that storm debris directly out from under the power lines. That's going to make it very difficult. you've got an option to get out of the please do so. All right, moving on, public comment. Now, this will be something you want to talk about, the weather or something like that, other than this, that we're gonna get into with the rezoning and the law. Has anybody got anything they'd like to come and talk to us about?
Kristen, there are currently no signups for that. There are no signups.
Okay. All right, approval of the consent agenda will see and D move to the right. Motion for that. Jeff, second. Any other comments? Second. Any other questions, discussion about it? Hearing none? All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, on the regular agenda, consideration of adoption of resolution.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just one minute of clarification, the food items C and D from the consent agenda down to the regular agenda, is it your, was it your intent to put consent agenda item C and D on the regular agenda as C and D as well, or before I look at it, B and C as well? So yes, so the first item, give me 1 second here, okay, that's. Yeah, so this agenda item here is talking about adoption of resolution 2411, which is to temporarily lift restrictions on RV and camper occupancy. And so to be brief again about this, we know that the town of Mills River and we know that Western North Carolina is continuing to reel from the effects of tropical storm Helene. And we know that that's going to take quite a bit of time to make people whole again. And so the resolution, the proposed resolution in front of you, it was one way that we as a town may wish to help to ease the burden to ensure that people are in some type of safe home in case their home is damaged. As you may, to remind council, under the current ordinances, the recreational vehicles can only be used as a temporary single family dwelling only in those districts that permit recreational vehicles within parks. In no case shall recreational vehicle be used as a single family dwelling, and that's currently in our code ordinances. What this does is lifts that for a period of 12 months. And then also lifts the prohibition, as you can see in section 152.04, the use of recreational vehicles as a primary residence without permitted electric, water, and sewage connections. So essentially what this resolution would do, is put on hold or waive this for a period of 12 months to allow for people to have recreational vehicles as a residence while they're working on their homes and repairing their homes from the disaster.
Okay. We got any questions for staff on this? So this 12 months would start with if we pass this today, and we're running 12 months consecutive. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
If for some reason, at the end of that 12 months, because some of these houses may be totally be rebuilt, would we relook at this again if it needed to have an extension put on to get them through?
Yes, so council, by council direction, this may continue to be extended into the future if council so chooses.
Okay, I think that's all I have. That's a good, entertaining motion to move on this. Yeah, does any, come on up. The 3 minutes still applies, we got a long time.
Private landowners need to not be working, loading on their land only for themselves, and they cannot exceed 183 days per year. This is, I suggest permits, for those covering the hurricane damage, while they rebuild, but we may need additional personnel for enforcement. If a non-landowning person residing in an RV only be parked on a permitted RV ground land per terms of the RVs can be used as rentals for short-term or long-term, which is strictly prohibited by county and state law. To clarify, even if no money is exchanged, the landowner is the landlord, and these scenarios, water rights are in effect. I also recommend for these types of violators to, have extreme penalties, because if we're going to lift this up for the homeowners that have to pay for a place, and this doesn't replace it. We shouldn't have people taking advantage of it, and that's already kind of happening. People look on Airbnb. Not hooked to electric, sewer, or, running water. Not how anybody should be living in our community. Yeah, in our city.
Okay. So, Mr. Meltzer, how would we be policing this? You got a good answer for that one?
While a moratorium is in effect, there would be no enforcement of it, because again, those restrictions are lifted. Currently, we do this on a complaint basis, so we do not go out proactively looking for campers and RVs to violate. Usually it's we receive an anonymous complaint, we go investigate, if the complaint's valid, these are the provisions we would enforce.
Okay.
So I believe as far as the permit to go, the governor is limited in the burden during storms, but that would apply to somebody usually as a resident.
So does staff have any concerns over any, several changes they'd like?
I don't know yet, so.
Council, any concerns? I don't think you have any concerns at this time.
I would just add one more thing. If there are concerns from the community, that's why we're here. So please reach out to us. You know, if you feel something's being violated or someone's living in a state that shouldn't be, again, we will look at that. But if council passes this moratorium, we will not be able to enforce these two provisions of our code. But again, staff is here to investigate this complaint, so feel free to reach out to us.
If that is lifted, that means that there is no way for us to actually enforce somebody doing a rental that is subpar. Because I'm a landlord and I myself on following state regulations, and it irritates me when people take advantage of that, and especially the state that we're in. You need housing, they need all three of these states. So that is my biggest concern, that people are going to be living in subpar conditions, and there's no way for us to fight back because we have an upward rent.
So, I think some council's hands, they might not know. If you got a concern with it, we could possibly table this and come back to it, but not understand this information tight. And people may not even house in the meeting. That wouldn't necessarily move this unless we come back to this. So I would suggest we think about it before we move forward. Both ways.
Think about the matters. We can always supersede this resolution with a addition like concerning their guys. Thinking that the being good forward with this tonight and make us better to residents something impact on smooth. So with that, I move that we adopt resolution 2024-11 as presented.
And then a motion for Bill, second. Jamie, second. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, look over the public hearing for the R 24-2 residential large scale rezone. Before we get into this, I think we have a lot that we're going to speak tonight, that's what it's all about. Let me know what's all thinking about this. Likewise, I'm sure somebody's thinking about it. I want to say this thing, project, okay? We're gonna have a great time on everybody. Just to make it move through, you probably not gonna make a decision on this tonight. I'm hoping y'all might have a lot of stuff that we might need to think about and consider. I will say, if you got questions or anything, we're gonna be out of staff, there's questions and if your questions, if you're waiting for an answer, could be by another 30 minutes, so I'll just, as much as I can promise you that. And at the end of the program, we'll try to get something to hopefully staff and the council will answer some of these questions. When you understand a little bit more after it's over with. Okay? All right. Everybody get up there. All right. I need somebody to say, public hearing.
If I may, just as a reminder to all council, we do have one of your green sheets. In there, that one that is stated together. That green form is actually, guidelines for the public hearing to ensure that we make sure we get the conclusion. So I just wanted to let that, let you know that that's available for you.
Thank you. All right, then made a motion, my name is Steiger. Same with Steiger. Any discussion for more in the public hearing? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, let's get started.
Chad, quick, turn the fan on. I appreciate it.
We have somebody on.
Sorry, let's go here.
So, let me ask you, does anyone on this council have a conflict with this? I do live in this area, I'm questioning with a lawyer, I'm questioning with staff. And I think if anybody's concerned, Matt's got some, legal stuff we could, speak to him.
That a request for me to speak on that thing.
Everybody on this council have a property to be set on the property, and I'm always giving you. Nothing more proper from than any of the other things. Okay. All right, go ahead, sir.
So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Malachek here to introduce the item. No, you're good.
All right, I'm gonna start with some background about this rezoning. I'm Michael Malachek, I'm the planning director for the town. Going further back, this all started about a year ago as a conversation, I'll stand up. As a conversation with our town planning board when we had two properties on Ray Hill Road that wanted to annex into the town of Mills River voluntarily. At that time, that's when the planning board was taking a look at the zoning map and our comprehensive land use plan, which was adopted in 2021, which calls for the southern and western part of Mills River to remain rural and preserve the small town character. At that time, through this annexation request, the planning board discovered that the mixed use zoning district and our comprehensive plan calling for this area to remain rural were not in alignment. And that's what led to this process starting in these conversations beginning about a year ago. The formal request to start this rezoning action was initiated by the planning board in April of this year. And again, it is to initiate, it's a town initiated rezoning of the Mills River mixed use district in this area of town. And let me switch to the map here. So everything in green is our mixed use zoning. And everything within that boundary is what's proposed to be rezoned to the new zoning district, which is called rural residential. Going forward, before we move forward with the formal request to rezone, the planning board had a special meeting in July, it was July 23rd, to collect additional public input before this was moved forward to council. And so at that time, we sent out a postcard to every registered property owner in the area. If you owned multiple parcels of property, you would only receive one notice. And again, if it was vacant, it didn't matter if it was vacant land or a house on it, anyone who owned property here should have gotten that mailer. That was intended to inform the public of this and have people come out for that special meeting with the planning board, and council was in attendance as well in July. And we sent out over 1,000 postcards at that time. At the planning board's August meeting, that's when they actually recommended this rezoning action, recommended approval for it to our town council. After taking additional public comment. And then before I get into the nitty-gritty details of it, we did complete the public notice requirements for this. The state says, since this is such a large area, excuse me, we only have to do extended legal advertisements in the newspaper. But because public input was so important to this, and because our council members wanted to hear from y'all, we sent out another mailer with that full letter you probably got in the mail. Over 1,000 of those went out as well. So we have satisfied state requirements for public notice for this hearing. So what is the mixed use zoning district? When most people call and ask about it, I basically say it's almost like open zoning. There are very few things that are not allowed. The only things expressly not allowed are hazardous waste sites, radioactive facilities, and adult establishments. Now some uses like an RV park, a tiny home park like the Coney Bell manufactured home park, some of those higher impact uses under mixed use would require a special use permit, which requires approval from our town council. So there is some check in there for some of those higher impact uses, but any other use you propose for your property is basically allowed by right. So it's a wide open zoning district that allows almost everything. The rural residential zoning district, the proposal is to pare that back a bit, to limit non-residential uses. And what I'm going to get into next, also decrease the residential density, so fewer homes per acre. Right now in the mixed use zoning district, it's a 30,000 square foot minimum lot size, which comes out to about 0.69 acres. So you need 0.69 acres per single family home, whether it's a mobile home or a stick-built home on your property. Mixed use also allows multiple dwellings on one piece of land. So there are properties down there that may have 2, 3, 4 houses on one parcel. But as long as you meet that density requirement of one home per 0.69 acres, that's been okay so far. This new rural residential district would basically double that requirement to 1.5 acres per single family home. And you also would not be allowed to have multiple homes on one parcel. So that you'd have to subdivide, and any new home, again, if this passes, would have to be placed on 1.5 acre of land. So that's one of the major changes affecting the residential side. There's also no building setbacks in the current district. So if you want to build a shed related to your house, it has to be residential in nature, or want to put your home, you can build right up to the property line if you want. In this new rural district, while we didn't have super strict setbacks, there are some basic standards in there, and I don't have them all in front of me, but I think it's 10 or 15 feet off your property line and a little bit more at the front. So establishing those residential building setbacks as well. The biggest part of the rural residential district that I'll go through is the new list of permitted uses, because again, the major change we have is we're going from basically an open book that allows everything to a book that has a list of things that are allowed. So I'm just going to read through that for clarity. So the uses that are going to be allowed by right with a zoning permit approval from staff in this new rural residential district are single family homes, accessory dwellings, duplexes, religious institutions and churches, cemeteries, accessory buildings such as sheds, garages, non-commercial greenhouses, workshops, farm and produce stands, family care homes, child care facilities, clubs and lodges, community buildings, adult daycare facilities, public facilities and public buildings, indoor commercial shooting ranges with or without on-site weapon sales, riding stables, parks and public recreational facilities, golf courses and or country clubs, camps, bed and breakfasts, and incidental home occupations. Home occupation being, you use a room in your house to run your business out of. But again, your property is still primarily residential in nature. Now, those are the uses that are just allowed with a normal staff level approval in this new zoning district that's proposed. There are some additional commercial or non-residential uses that you can get, but you have to get a minor special use permit. So basically, it's another application process, and you would have to come before our Board of Adjustment, not town council. Major special use permits are for that higher impact stuff like an RV park, multifamily homes. This is a lower level of special use permit approval where you go before our Board of Adjustment and they make sure there's no adverse impacts of your use on neighboring properties. Now, the uses that can apply for that process, again, minor special use permit, are landscaping, material sales and storage, machining, assembly, and service operations in an enclosed building of 7,500 square feet or less, offices of any type, business, professional, public, kennel and animal boarding facilities, utility stations, and that's the end of that. There's another list still allowing some of those higher impact uses with a major special use permit still. And again, those are your planned residential developments, medical, institutional care facilities, so like a nursing home, something like that, structured home environments, and manufactured home parks. Tiny home parks was something that was specifically eliminated and will not be allowed in this zoning district anymore. That is the summary of the uses. I'm gonna go through a few more slides on the screen here, and then I'll open it up back to council. So again, this is our current zoning map. Again, you've seen this because it's what the rezoning map is overlaid upon. This green is the mixed use. So you can see about 3/4 of our town, 3/4 of our 22 square miles is currently zoned this mixed use, almost open zoning district. Again, this is the rezoning area. And it's defined if you live on the south side of South Mills River Road or anywhere within our jurisdictional boundary on the southern side of town, you would be in this rezoning area. It basically follows our jurisdictional boundary up on the east side to Warlick Road and then cuts over to Turnpike and then back up to the point of beginning at Schoolhouse, Old Turnpike and 280. Again, just capturing this green mixed use area. These areas were left out because they are already in a relatively strict residential only district. This is the town's comprehensive plan for future land use map. So again, this was adopted in 2021 with public input, with input from all our boards and council members that calls for what the town should be in those areas. What are the future uses of land we want to see in that part of town? And in all that green area, it's titled rural agricultural. Well, what does that mean? It's filled out right here. Rural agricultural is meant to emphasize maintaining the rural character of the community, development to include a mix of ag uses, rural homesteads, low density, single family development, and low intensity employment uses. And again, you can see here in rural agricultural, the specific uses that are desirable, acceptable, and not desirable. And in not desirable, you can see industrial, commercial, and multifamily. I think that's about all the summary I have for now. So I'll turn it back over to council unless there's a specific questions.
So do we have any questions for staff?
So is this the same as the text amendment that was passed back in June?
That's correct, and I should have mentioned that. So the planning board and council did already adopt this zoning district with those uses in that sheet I just read off. That you're correct. That's been adopted into our zoning regulations and just exists there as code in the book, but it's not been applied to any property yet, which is the reason for the hearing tonight.
No. And I looked in here and did not see where it was mentioned in the vortex that was approved, what was not allowed.
Our code is interesting because it doesn't have a list or a permitted use table where you have specific uses permitted and specific uses not permitted. All of our zoning districts just list permitted uses by the different processes or approval processes. And so that's the same thing we follow for this. Now, I will say, and the public may not be aware of this, we're going down a 1.5 year long process with a planning consultant to look at our whole development code and our zoning town-wide as well with a more comprehensive approach. And that will something that will most likely be implemented in that code rewrite, because again, it is wise to have a list, a table of uses that includes both permitted and expressly not permitted. But that is not in the ordinance as it's written.
If I may, just, and I'm gonna look at Mr. Malinchak to confirm this for me. If in the current draft though, with the rural residential permitted uses, as well as the different processes and the special use permits or et cetera, that if it is not listed within any of those sections, would that be an implied then impermissible use? If it's not listed as any of those uses within the text as it's currently written?
It is implied that it's not permissible. So someone will call us and say, okay, here's where my property is. I'm in this zoning district. Can I do this? And we'll tell them if it's not one of these listed uses, we'll tell them no, there's no permit process for this. Now, I say that it's not the most legally defensible position because it is better to have a permitted use table and have the uses that you want prohibited specifically outlined. And our code just isn't at that point yet. But you're correct. If someone calls and asks, we will basically tell them it's not on the list of permitted uses and there's no permit process for it. It's no application.
Any more questions for staff? If not, what I'd like to do is, I know everybody signed up. I don't know if you signed up, if you're in, but. Okay, so what we're gonna do is this next section is for the applicant or property owner. It's on the property owner in this case that's directly affected. You live in this district that we're talking about. I'd like to hear from y'all first. And then after that, we'll get on to the ones that's outside that. Listen to that.
Mayor, if I may, just as a reminder, for residents coming up to speak, if they can clearly state their name and their address for the record, so that we can keep record.
And you, for some reason, we haven't signed up here, we want you to be signed up, make sure you sign up there. And give us your address. First one up, Daniel.
Just stand right here.
Come to the podium, please.
I didn't go to the first grade. I don't know what that thing is.
You may mention, come on up.
You know, this land here, 6, 7 people are gonna decide what they're gonna do with my land. And I think it's gonna cost me money, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cause if I can't use it for what I want to, if I want to sell it, I will be able to sell it. And really, the only people, I think we ought to have a vote, people that's in that red area there, I'll be able to vote if they want to do this or not do it. And like I say, it's gonna cost me, I don't want 6 or 7 people here standing here trying to decide what I can do with my land. Really, I don't think we should change it. You know, I know you're gonna do something, so. Anyway, but that's my thing, so.
Thank you. And just make sure, just stay respectful through this, there'll be a lot of people, I'm sure, are going to, people's gonna hear stuff you don't wanna hear, stuff you don't wanna hear. Just keep it respectful and let whoever's talking, have our permission. Cheryl, Cheryl? Please.
Live at 93 Solomon Drive.
And I am right on the edge of that, I'm in Mills River Crossing on the west side of it. Yeah, and so it's not really gonna help me that much, because Big Hill's already put in that permit for the shopping center there. And then as we go out our gate, what's right across the street is not in the rezoning, so it's not really gonna help me that much. But what my worry is you're creating a district that over time it's gonna be, in my opinion, resentful for people outside of that district, that they're dealing with all the congestion, all the noise. Talking about the BMW motorcycle dealership, and she has to hear all day long, while people from where I'm at, southwest, get this nice, quiet, no congestion, no businesses along 280. And I'm afraid that over time, people outside of that, and those in the green, that are not in the rezone area, that have a risk of having just something very, very undesirable, and they're not protected by this rezone area. What is to keep people from getting together and saying, you know what, if you're your own quiet little area, then be your own little quiet little area, and we're gonna keep our money to ourselves. It's coming in from all these businesses we have to deal with it here. And they're gonna keep all the income, all the taxes, income tax. While then our area, if we get annexed away from that, then it's all gonna be from our real estate tax. And our real estate tax is gonna go up if we become, if we're becoming a section that becomes separated from everything else in the future. Can that happen is my question. Could this become something that gets bigger later, where now we're Mills River South and Mills River North, and then Mills River South now doesn't get any income tax that's from Mills River North, because we're in a different section. And could it escalate to that in the future?
Just say, we'll try to answer as many of these questions as we physically can at the end of this deal. I'm sure we'll have those questions for us as well as we go through this. Is that on your level?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if that was something that could eventually happen, where we can concentrate, and when we don't have any of this, is really want to wait to be, decide.
I think we'll have to rely on staff for that here in the fall.
I didn't mean to show any disrespect by looking at my phone. She was speaking, I was listening, but I have a family member that just went through surgery and finished.
Hey, Lynette Raines, is that right? Lynette?
I'm here, to represent my family, the Fulham family, we're property owners. And I'm gonna read a letter that, that my brother Daryl has submitted to the town. I'm a fourth generation dairy farmer who, like most dairy farmers in Mills River, has sold the business and a good part of their land because the economics of dairy farming has changed over the years, making it difficult, if not impossible, to make a living from dairy farming in this community. The land has provided many years of a good quality life for the family. I don't recall having too many people offer to help us pay considerable costs for taxes, lining, and fertilizer fields, just so that they can enjoy that open farmland. The landowner should be able to use the land for its best use. So when it is no longer able to support our family by farming, we should have the right to do what's best with the owner of the land. That could be a change of use or selling it for someone else. How would homeowners feel if the town made a ruling that all the houses in the town can only be sold at half of their price value in order to help with affordable housing costs in this room? Now compare that to how the proposed restrictions would affect the Wilson Valley property owners. If the town planners just allow the highest and best use of the land, it will greatly devalue our property. I cannot agree with infringement on the landowners. But that's, just speaking for our family. My mother who was not able to come tonight, she supports this. Two of my brothers who also are landowners, they're supporting as well. We feel that we've had the privilege of being part of this community our whole lives. We want to make it good area to continue to live in. Do think that property owners need choice. Right. What we see here.
So you be saying you're speaking in behalf of like 4 or 5 people? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Rachel Rodriguez.
Sweetwater Road. I appreciate you taking the time to hold a public meeting. And I would like to remind you all of the ways that I've already spoken. There was a survey that was shared, and we had a public meeting that we did with the planning board. That showed that there is overwhelming support for residential zoning. It's an important first step for us to grow in a direction that keeps the rural and agricultural character of Mills River. These past few weeks have only re-emphasized to me how much I love and value our small and agricultural community. I know that this is not a black and white issue. There's a lot to consider, but please trust us as residents that we have considered the multiple sides of this. And the majority of us could still come to the conclusion that rural residential rezoning is a good idea. You can see that in the survey results. You saw that clearly at the planning board meeting. Surveys done, you'll see that as well. It is an important first step. So let's please move forward and take that step. I would say tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Ernest, are y'all still, is anybody still residing in Mills River? Okay. All right. If we're Keith.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Rosie. I live in George Crest, up on a mountain, right in the middle of all that area. And thank you for that. We bought land from her parents and her brother in a subdivision right up there on top of the mountain. And when we bought that subdivision, all the lots are 2.5 to 4 acres. Because her father did not want to look up on the mountain and see nothing but houses. And he was gonna do a phase 3 and 4. But he sold that now to a big subdivision that's gonna fit 237 houses right on the 280. And my question is, I asked, where are they gonna be water? Because all the wells are 800 to 1,000 feet deep, and it's a dry mountain. So if you're gonna put houses on small little lots in our little area, I know the valley, the people who live in the valley, they don't wanna look up on the mountain and see nothing but houses. And we don't wanna be on the mountain and look in the valley and see nothing but houses on the lake that was just flooded this storm. So as the previous person said, it's already been voted on, it's already been passed, well, everybody agreed to it. That the 1.5 acre per lot, and she restricts some of the hazardous material plants, junkyards, concrete factory, that we don't wanna see in the rural community. We bought our lot in 1997, and in our little subdivision where we are, there's 28 houses on big lots, and it could be like.
You. Function. Okay. Thank you, Alan Wilson. Yes, great. And Dennis McCraw, property owner, 10172 Boston Highway, 7040 Mile Road. I address the council concerning the proposed zone. All I hear from these folks is that we need to keep Mills River rural. So what is rural? The U.S. Census Bureau, rural is a geographic area that is located outside towns and cities. Typically, they have low population density with land-based industries such as agriculture and forestry. If you think Mills River is rural, man, you never saw it in the seventies or earlier. Mills River truly met the definition of a rural area. They did not rural. So what is the purpose of this study? To make Mills River rural, because it is a non-unique document. With the zoning proposal, what would Mills River look like in the future, like 30 years? Housing would predominantly be present on every 1.5 acre lot. These homes will not be just typical housing, but housing for the elite, since property prices will skyrocket. This proposal will create a lower volume of available acreage, thereby driving prices upward. If you don't have property to give your children, most likely your heirs will not yet reside in Mills River. We have a wonderful community. We also need good stewards of our resources. So where does affordable housing fit into this plan? There would not only be a limit of housing for the people who live in the West Cab, but there would also be limited availability of goods and services. Never would they have a nearby grocery store or drugstore. Where would our Mills River West residents go for their goods and services? They would go to adjacent communities, Etowah, Pisgah Forest, and Florida. What would this do to the Mills River tax base? There would be diminished receipts from Mills River that result in rising property taxes for residents. In 30 years future, there will be a traffic explosion from Highway 280. Presently, at the Transylvania Intercounty line, there's 15,000 vehicles per day. In 30 years, count is estimated to be 50,000. How do the residents gain access to Boston Highway for that high traffic count? Today, at certain times, it is difficult to gain that access. The planning board needs to think about road access now. With more traffic, there will be a need for more residents. Who gets the first residents? The largest subdivision? How are they spaced? In the payoff pattern? Or the design makes sense to promote a stable traffic flow? Most towns would have access roads utilized to enable residents and school buses safely enter traffic. In 30 years, the greatest population city will be in the West. However, town facilities and amenities are located further away from the people in the West than any other sector in the town. The town is planned to bypass the people to ride to work, businesses, play, on a single path is coming to the west end of town. The west end of our town has not received the same considerations for infrastructure improvements, water, sewer, and hydrants. Does this sound like a community our residents want? Since I'm using my time, I'll turn it over to my wife and give her. And she would finish.
If I may, I apologize, just to make sure that we announce based off of the list of the speakers. So, Mr. Mayor, he is the next one to speak. I just want to confirm that before we go on.
Yes.
So I just want to confirm, thank you so much.
And I know that we have two properties, in the impacted area, the west sector of town of Mills River. So we have recommendations for the town council. Consider tonight's rezoning of Plan A. As a part of the planning board to develop plans B and C, which are distinct, unique to address the needs of our citizens in the west. Can we not accomplish the town's goals through proper designs of landscape, buildings, access roads, and less intrusive signage? For instance, can we have structures built which meet the town code requirements, yet do not have a negative impact on our community and our residents? This could be accomplished with use of corridors, landscaping, and purposeful building design, while still contributing to our sense of community, which is vital. So after our town's recent devastating events, buildings don't need to be built by flooding, by filling in floodplains and clear-cutting our forests. The town council requested the planning board create an alternative proposal due to some negative public feedback, right? This wasn't accomplished. If the members of the planning board are unable to perform this duty or do not have the skill sets needed to develop traditional plans, then replace them with residents who are willing and able. No one on the planning board is expected to be an expert with town development. However, from what's been reported on the town website for meeting minutes, the planning board hasn't followed the advice of Mayor Gons. Mayor Gons and others said, hey, come out and glean from the public, direct public input from the west sector residents about what's going on. This team has an obligation to the impacted residents to hear and document their concerns and ideas. And I do say document. Because these planning board members should also research plans from other comparable sized towns to help determine what Mills River could look like in 30 years. We can benefit from the lessons learned from those other towns. Once 3 proposals are developed, all 3 options should be presented to the west sector residents for a vote. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to express my concerns. I hope the town council will listen to the feedback of our town residents and carefully examine the impact of their decisions people they serve. I implore the residents of Mills River to get involved in the decisions that are being made on your behalf by these few representatives. If the residents of the town of Mills River feel like my family, because we love children, but let's make it accommodate a majority of the residents and not just a certain.
Thank you. Next, Senator Lawson.
My name is Chuck Thompson. We own a large piece of property at George 280. And I'm very opposed to this rezone. My family's been in this area for over 100 years. And I really don't like the idea of people moving into the area, telling me what I can do with my property. It's being decided by 6%, 8% here. It's not right. It's like the gentleman back there said a little while ago, this ought to be put to the vote of the people that it's affected. Thank you.
Barrett, the vote.
I submitted a letter back, I think in July, concerning this topic, so kind of reiterate what things in there. I worked in Oklahoma my entire life, I moved away for a few years after that, about 2 years. All I ever wanted to do was get back to my brother. I knew this is where I wanted to raise my family. I was with 2. And my God's grace, I was able to get back here. When I returned home, Mills River looked very different than when I had left almost 2 years earlier. I know that with time, everything changes and you can't stop progress. But I don't want to leave with make our town a place to love and to miss. I want my children to grow up in a beautiful town that makes Mills River what it is. New additions to our town aren't all bad, and with its growth has come new job opportunities. Fun events like Mills River Day, Mills River Park, some additional places to eat. But when you take out large rural vans left and right and replace them with massive, overcrowded, overpriced, large communities of townhomes, apartments, shopping centers, it does not stand on land of what Mills River is, what residents want to be. We live here because we love the rural atmosphere. We don't want to live in cities. We don't want to live around things like apartment complexes and overcrowded, neighborhoods and tons of businesses. We chose this place to raise our families for a reason. And that is being taken away from us by outside developers and people who are wanting to just put as many houses as they can and only can afford a few houses. So I'm very much in agreement with nobody can afford to live here anymore. And so what is that gonna look like? How are we gonna put affordable housing into this? Regulations should be put into place in order to help protect the essence of what makes Mills River Mills River. In 2 years, the river has changed drastically, and I don't want to imagine how much worse can be done if zoning regulations are not put in place to stop this. I do not want my children to grow up in a place that is turning into that. I don't want it to be a place that's overcrowded with apartment complexes, like emission, traffic, and traffic light, all the crowdedness that already happened in just a very short time period. So, I don't think as I passed the town council, with something to accommodate residents that are in our lives in the future, going forward, you know, young families and our children, and what it's gonna look like in 30 years.
Thank you.
My name is Gary Cole, and I live on Forge Crest Drive on Forge Mountain. My family, one or another part of my family has been in Mills River since the King of England gave a land grant to one of my ancestors. And we are a farming family. As my sister Lynette Rain said earlier, dairy farming, that's no longer particularly profitable just due to the way things have changed over time. But the one thing that we all need to keep in mind, no matter what side we're coming down on this, is every restriction on land use, whatever that is, it's like a fishery. Once it's restricted in some way, there are no future decisions you can make that can violate the laws, the rules at that point. So what we do is we have trying to reach a balance between total anarchy and total tyranny, where the people that are often very good, well-meaning people want to make a lot of rules about how we can use our land and what the purpose of it is for. Well, we don't know the future. We don't know technology developments that are going to come along. We don't know population patterns shifting. And every time we restrict something, whether it's the acreage of a lot that can be sold, we have just eliminated many futures that might be very prosperous or advantageous, but it won't be an option available. There will be a choice available once there are more restrictions. And I would say that the way it is currently is the least restricted it'll ever be for all eternity throughout the rest of the future history of this. I would be in favor of none whatsoever, simply because it gives us the most choices in the future. And regardless of where we are, everyone theorizes about what bad use the land could have in the future. And I know we don't want garbage heaps and chemical processing companies in their neighborhood necessarily. But every time we restrict something, we give up some of our future and some of our children and grandchildren's future. The least restrictions possible are the freest future we can do. That's where thank you.
Thank you. Ron Cole.
My whole, 30 Chesterport over here. So on the planning board around here as a resident of that area. And we incorporated, so this is a public hearing, obviously, but every meeting that you have, every meeting the planning board has to not. And when we incorporated 20 years ago, we incorporated with the mantra of staying rural, which it hasn't done, as we can plainly see. Just 3 years ago, with a lot of public hearings, and a lot of public input, we created a future future map. And again, that is a lot of public. And I understand everybody has a different look, if you're on GA, you want to say, put some dollars and so forth, that's different, if somebody doesn't live on GA. But what we have to decide is, are we at last, at any point, going to maintain the rural character of Mills River for now and in the future? Or are we going to, mixed use, is wide open. We think that if we don't restrict it, it'll stay the way it is, and that is not going to be the case. Because by right, other than hazardous materials and adult entertaining centers, pretty much everything goes. And so while this is restricted more than it is right now, we always have the ability to do text amendments and other things to make adjustments and so forth, but we're coming from a foundation of strength. Be able to, be able to maintain that rural character that we voted on more than once as a community through all of these years. And so if we don't, don't be surprised if this doesn't look 20 or 30 years from now like Airport Road. So I would recommend that we do this, we can adjust it as we go. We can adjust it for folks who own land for, generations and so forth, but right now it's wide open. And if we'll continue to be wide open, we're gonna be wide open, and we already see what we're gonna get here. We can look around in Fletcher and other areas and see what we'll end up with.
Jacqueline Winger.
This chapel, my husband and I live in a rental property, actually, it's a home, that's in an older neighborhood, unfortunately, just south of Greenville Road on Highway 80. We moved to this area a year ago to my husband's job, we came from Indianapolis, Indiana. We grew up in small towns like Mills River, and so being able to move to to fulfill my husband's job duties in Hendersonville, but being able to live in Mills River, it felt like coming home. And, just really appreciate the rural character of the community and not being built into the town plan. And coming from a rural, growing up situation to moving to a big city, I do respect what the landowners and the property owners are saying here, that they do have a right to decide how they should use their property, but coming from a somewhat outsider perspective, it's bad out there, and it just keeps building and things keep going up, and we have so many gas stations and grocery stores and things that we don't necessarily need, all for the sake of profit and commerce and improvement. But really looking at the mountains and looking at the surrounding area and being able to, just appreciate that on your drive to the park or on your drive to Ingles, is such a unique aspect of Mills River, and I hope we can do everything we can to preserve that. Now, that said, I do agree with a lot of the comments and concerns that have been raised this evening, such as, again, property owners' voices and how they can use their land, and really taking that into consideration. I do see that there could be some segregation between North and South Mills River that we need to take into consideration. And a primary concern for my husband and I is definitely affordable housing. Again, we're in a rental home, and we would love to be able to become property owners like everybody else here, and really make this our home and raise our children here. But that is a concern that with this being a more desirable area, that financially you might not be able to stay in those. And so I just hope that council keeps that into consideration. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll submit. That's. We'll submit.
We have no change from 77 years old.
seen a lot of change in one time. Most of it, not really good. But everything needs restrictions, but when you start getting into having bureaucracy, that's more of the bureaucracy itself. And enforceable. Then the problem, you're gonna talk everything where people, when people get here, you just don't feel like being, or you don't feel like they're included. And I think we need to include those people, and I really think that people in this area should have a direct vote on the one vote. A or nay. It's- I don't think, from my experience with my interaction with planning and stuff. I had a complaint a while ago about a native in the junkyard next to my place. I think 2 years back was about it. And the excuse I got was, well, we don't have the staff to enforce it. So you're gonna put another land for bureaucracy. You deal with it. How's that gonna work? So, again, let me look to see one little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Christie.
I live at 53 Allison Road, right off 280 across Radio Road. Didn't come here with the intent to speak, but offered the opportunity. I'd like to say that I respect all of the opinions of the individuals that I've heard here tonight. They all have very valid viewpoints. But the fact is that if we want Mills River to remain the type of community that it is now, we have to act now. 5 years from now, we'll be too late. We'll be packed in like Henderson. You know, people have said, well, we can't tell what the future is, but yes, we can. Because we know what Hendersonville was like 10 years ago, and we know what it's like today. And that tells us, if we want to preserve our air quality, our water quality, our quality of life, our vistas, then we have to act now, and we have to restrict the density of population. We have to restrict commercial development that might ruin our air quality. We have to look at what kinds of demands that would put on our infrastructure, on our police, on our roads, on our schools, on our trash, on our water. The list is endless, and it all has to be considered. So unless we want to pay for an enormous infrastructure increase, and none of us want that, then we need to do this, and we need to do it now while it's still possible. Thank you.
Love your community. Had dreams of taking my 2.99 acres of a place where a couple of family members could stay, live on the property with me. I see the 1.5 allocation for dividing the property that happened. That's how we plan. Less than short of divide all. And it's close to my age. Until it helped me in my life. Older, living close by. It's gone. Essentially. That's nothing wrong with that. Appreciate keeping
Thank you. Steve Adams.
Hi, my name's Steve Adams. I'm the Forest Acres Drive, 24 acres. I grew up in Asheville, started coming out here when I was a kid. Feel like I've been out here for over 50 years now. And it was a place I wanted to live. And so we moved out here. We bought property in 2007, moved out here and restored an old house. In 2017, so I feel like I'm a big part of the community anyway. Got the notice, I thought, well, the restriction is good from going from 0.69 to 1.5. Doesn't mention anything about restrictions on there. Of course, I heard some restrictions over here, nothing particularly bad, but the first gentleman who spoke, I'm curious as to how it could keep you from making a living. So, I mean, I'm not saying against that. I don't want to restrict you in any way. On the same token, I see a property that's secondhand information on a gentleman has to wait and you hear it out. But I mean, we can keep the land, and I'm told it's sold and they're planning on 250 homes. Unless that's a hell of a lot bigger property than what I think it is, you know, I'm glad to see it go to 1.5 from that standpoint. Because I really want to keep it rural. How do you keep it rural? Where do you go from 1.5 to 5 acre? You know, I mean, where is that? So I'm just curious as to where the restrictions are that I'm hearing about. I don't think anybody should be restricted to what they want to do. One of the biggest things I was proud of by properties is no HOA. You know, I do not want to have an HOA. And so, but then the more restrictive things become, there's going to be HOA. And Mills River Crossing, you know, I hate to see it come in. I'm secondhand, I run the house, it's doubled there since they started, was that right, price? That's making property values, temporary taxes go up. So I mean, that's not a good thing, but we can't stop, we don't have, if we leave it the way it is, when John spoke, if we leave it the way it is, with developments. And I'm hoping that property that's sold that's gonna supposedly have 250 homes, I don't know, I hope you guys can overrule, that's probably already been passed. You guys got a job in your hand, and I sure don't live a job. And, but open a can of worms on 6.9, but you guys foresee that that wouldn't stay, you know, how do you restrict it? Yeah, you got to, but we don't want to restrict anybody from making a living on the property either. And of course, the gentleman with 2.99 acres, if you heard, you can build a duplex, you'd be okay. Hope that would help you.
Let's try not to get in a conflict.
Yeah.
So we're here to try to get your input to us so we can make it a big
It's a
decision.
rock and a hard place, but you know, it can't stay the same, because it'll never be rural if you don't make some changes. So, I mean, maybe 0.69 to 1.5 is a first step. But if it comes with restrictions, man, those restrictions, you're gonna have to really be careful what you restrict. Because we do want to stay rural. I think that's the one everybody in this place now, I hope.
So that includes the people that had signed up. You got one? Are you gonna leave it? Okay, come on. Make sure you give us your thing.
We just had a, just a little bit slower, just so our clerk was able to write down.
David Hudson, 93 Drive Road. And growing up, in Hendersonville, we always used to make fun of it. It's lighthearted, but we always made fun of the rednecks out of them rivers. And we always loved going out and fishing with stringers and hunting on their land. About fishing.
And I had no problem marrying a girl from Mildred. And now I live in the house she grew up in. It was built in 71. And her mom and dad have been here for a long time. Her uncles and aunts live here. And when we came here, I've lived in a lot of big cities since then and moved back. And when we moved back here, it was so that we could raise our daughter and be close to family. And for it to be a different place than all the cities we had been in before. And you do that when you're young, when you get to a point when you have family. You do have to look at it a little bit differently. I know that's not an easy decision to make. I feel like there's balance to be struck, but I will say this. There's some weird things that have happened in these recent years. We built a beautiful fire department. And next to it, we've got a building that looks like out of place. And I'm thinking it's going to be a business. And now we're looking at square footage that hasn't been occupied. And if that's the case, what will happen in the future with other buildings? And there are plenty. There's a building that's not right now, Boylston Baptist Church, this side of us, that hasn't been occupied. It's not. It's up on the hill. I've driven by that thing so many times I can't see straight.
Not my building, I do occupy.
That's right. But you don't know that. And the concept of people doing the business out there, but these monstrosities, man, it's just gonna bust a groove in what we call Mill Groove.
At least it's not a Walmart.
Yes, sir. I agree with that. But I just feel like, you know, protect that a bit. And I don't know what that looks like, but I do know what it means to move away from this town and be in a lot of different other states, and they were great. But when we came back here. And I know people want to live here. I can't blame them. But the overdone occupancy that we've seen right up the road is not a good option. So I think we got to do something to protect. You know, or we need to go
Yeah. You do your part.
So my name is John Nehmeyer, I'm Expo Ellison. And I also do real estate from John Watson, who is our shown tonight. We all made here in 2015 from toll analysis, grants, so sit Nelson. So you see Toll Allison Road up there, that's where we live. And people learn about that, you know, and determine that it was a not to do something to avoid developers, right? I mean, when I met him, he said, no one in this area, their biggest fear is leaving their land and seeing it develop. So he actually put in restrictions on his land. That we cannot subdivide in more than or less than 5 acres of land. That's pretty smart, right? That's why I actually sent a letter saying, I don't know, 1.5 acres is even enough. I know that the conflict needs to be. He also interviewed us to make sure we weren't developed, right? That we had the intentions to do with the property when he would have land. We also completed the survey, and I think that survey was in a way to get developed, right? And I think the survey did show that a vast majority of those are for the proposal to move to rezoning of rural residential. So, you know, I do know this is a critical decision.
But I agree that it's not stated, well, maybe this is where. Did a fantastic job. The decision we make today or in the next few weeks is gonna determine what this town looks like in 5 years, 10 years. 30 years. So real quickly, a different statement from John Watson, again, he lives on, Turnpike. Real brief, sometimes it said that this will lower property values. This is false. When there are some restrictions on what can happen within a designated area, it brings order, cleanliness, beauty, that almost always increases value. The area that's being designated between residential, rural, as it is right now, so there's not a lot that's gonna change. Also, the current proposal is very balanced. There are still reasonable things that people can do with their properties. The city cannot afford to have more density on or around Turnpike Road because you have to expand the roads at a great expense to accommodate that density. And then lastly, this is really a decision about what kind of city we all want. One of beauty or one of a mismatch of things from property to property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Joey. 61 Rolling Hill Road. Only been here since 07. Okay. Back to
I need to give you your name.
Morning. Yeah, 61 Rolling Hills Road. Okay, so anyway, 45 years ago, I was on the flood survey crew in Nashville. We went to Haywood County and Yancey County. We found a flood mark in town that's 27 feet up on the side of it. Now, we had a big one recently, and I don't know how much your flood surveys can play into your zones and what that matters to you. I just think I'm saying, you need to check on it. I don't know what that's gonna matter to you, but also. Good idea.
Thank you, sir.
Run my truck, 31, and I'm in the area. I'm gonna make this brief. I spoke at the planning meeting, and I called Mills River a diamond in the rough. I think everybody in this room will agree with me that that's exactly what we are. And now we need to take the next step and become the diamond in the rough to the diamond of the area. And I'm just want to point out one thing. Over the last 3 or 4 weeks, driving down 280, signs have popped up. Land for sale, mixed use, build whatever you want. So it's already started. To keep us becoming a wild west of development, the council really needs to take some action soon. Thank you.
Okay, guys, one of the ones that live in the regular.
My name is Jim Rathbone. I live at 20 Burning Tree Drive, Mills River. I have 5 pieces of property in the community. I feel I have a great deal at stake. Yeah, I'm in my 80s, but I still care. The thing I questioned when I called this afternoon down at the office was, why just this area and not the entire green space? But we got one vote and they're one vote, then we should all have a say. And if you're gonna do part of the area, you should do the whole thing. I don't think that's unreasonable. I also think, and I agree with the people that said they thought it should be put to a vote. We have a fair way to handle most everything. I have worked and saved, and I was able to move here. I like the quiet, I like the privacy. To have privacy, you have to buy it. The more land you buy, the more privacy you have. But it's getting to where you can't afford to have it. The tax base is going crazy. Assessed values just keep going through the roof. And the millage doesn't come down. If millage came down when your assessed value went up, that would be an equalizer. But it's not. I feel like as citizens, and it's not just this community, it's this country. Our congressmen, our senators, they have a budget, the first thing they do is say, well, we can push that another 15%, we'll just borrow more money or we'll increase taxes. And I think it's time that our representatives, council as well, try to and make it better for those that you serve. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna ask, is anybody else living at the rent, a thing to hear to speak? Hearing none. All right, we're gonna move on to the ones outside of that. List things on. Brian Robinson.
Start that, Michael. Planning board member, can I give you 3 questions? I don't believe I answered yet. Explain the ADUs, what was grandfathered in, why only this area to this point. Thank you. Start by 3 ones. Name's Brian Ross. I live at 16 Schoolhouse Road. Just heard I'm a member of the planning board. I'd like to do a couple of things before I get to my notes. I can't stay in 3 minutes if I don't use my notes. Several people have mentioned that only a small percentage, a handful of people are going to make this decision. It could be more wrong. They're here tonight because you don't want to make the decision on your own. You want them to tell you how to do it. Thank you so much for that. Secondly, the planning board didn't make this decision unanimously without extensive conversation. Extensive. The number one thing we kept coming back to is the map you see right there, which is called the future land use map. That map was created by feedback from everybody sitting behind you and people who are not. It was created by the citizens. I can't go into it right now, but I wish it was the whole area. Sandra was the first question you asked. We presented. Why not all? There's an answer for that. As a resident of this town, and I just said a minute ago where I live, if you didn't hear that, it's 16 Schoolhouse Road. Some of you know that's Dr. Lou Morrison's place. Great the guy out there doing all the farming stuff, but those are know what it's doing. It's important to understand that I'm not from here. My family lives in Montana. You think I don't know the definition of rural? Try going to the 4th largest state, with one of the least populations in the country. Could have went anywhere after I got out of the Marine Corps. I came here. I married a native. I wouldn't raise my kids anywhere else. But we're losing this town. We're losing it fast. I want anyone to get mad if you say this 20 times in the next minute, 20 seconds. But one of the biggest reasons this town was incorporated was to not be Fletcher. We today are Fletcher of the day we incorporated. What the hell do we have another 20 years? It's impossible not to speak out both sides of our mouth doing this. I do. I want property rights. I own a real estate firm. I want to sell. You know what? I don't want some grease trap for a restaurant in my backyard. And I would likely lose income for my family to not have 300 homes on full. By the way, nothing that can be done about that. This town gets a 10% influx increase in population from one neighborhood. One neighborhood increased 10%. I am sorry to the men and women who own property that your values are going to go down somewhat from commercial to residential. But I will not apologize to the nether 90% of this town. But that area is part of our town. That's not just yours. I say we expand the entire area and take over every damn resident. Thank you.
Y'all again, I live on, Clearest Trail up in the north. I actually kind of missed that I'm not included in this rezoning because I'm having to deal with y'all in Brown Ridge, about high density issues that we've got going on and what is to stop anything from coming any closer to it. I am in support of making, it extraordinarily hard for developments that come in and tear us up, because as we've seen with Gulf River Crossing, what's going on with Jeffries, and of course now the Brown Bridge proposal, this is insanity. We are losing our town. And I'm really tired of coming up here and telling the same story every council meeting now. So please listen to us and help us contain this before we are Fletcher, because I don't want to be Fletcher. I lived there for like 6 months and it was hell, and that was like 30 years ago. So, it's just like, come on, everybody. I know that those who have property that are inside of this domain really feel constricted, but in all honesty, I want that constriction up the door. Because I'm getting eat up and run over by businesses that should not be in the middle of a residential district. Or higher density that just keeps compounding. I would be in favor of it going to 3 acres in all honesty. But I think that the 1.5 is a nice start. And we should include all of Mills River that is not already zoned in industrial or light commercial. Everything else needs to come from mixed and go to straight residential. Thank you again.
Very sweet.
It's very slow. That's SLO. Very hard to say, understand. I live in Horseshoe and on the property 9330 Olston Highway. My husband and I bought that house several years ago. I guess I was trying to figure it out, 10, 15 years ago, as an investment. Talking about will depreciate my investment. I really didn't realize that the last meeting you had, I came to it, and then I'm a rural farm girl myself. I was all in favor of restricting it and making it a farm area, a rural area. Who doesn't want to live in a rural area? I know there's some who do. I can't quite comprehend that because I love open spaces. At the same time, if you want a lot of property, then you should just go buy it. You should not restrict people who own their own property. So I am much against this rezoning. And my son, who actually lives in our house there on Austin House Highway, pointed out to me that with the restrictions that we have, we won't ever be able to build onto the house. There's a lot of things we can't do with the property. It's not a real small place. I've got my own acres. And also we live right beside, the house is right beside Eddie Owens. And he was telling me about the restrictions that would be put on Mr. Goss in running his market that he's had there for years and years. And it's just not right. If anything else, the least you can do is just grandfather things in. I don't know that much about the whole situation, but I'm able to speak for how it affects me personally. And I'm totally against it.
Thank you. So that concludes that list. Do I have anyone else that don't live in that division who would like to speak? I don't see any hands or anybody's up to them. Okay, let's see where we're at here.
Mr. Mayor, you're at number 9.
Oh, I got you. Been a long time. So we need to have any discussion amongst ourselves here. Say that, you know, and hearing all this, my dad included, there's a lot of misinformation out there. You know, my dad on market or the farmer market was never really impacted by this. Agriculture, and I'm sure is, or not concerned, motivated, always remain something we can do. The government or ranch yourself. That's what this little license made years ago. There's a lot of other misinformation. So in saying that, me personally, there's no way that we can make a decision on this tonight. I feel that I'm speaking for myself. I got some other council members here I should speak. But I would like to ask Sam, is there anything while we got a crowd here that the questions was proposed that y'all might have good answers to tonight? Then I'm clear that how it be. Let's try to get some of the questions answered.
Sure, thank you. The first one I had written down was, can this area get bigger later, the rezoning area? And the answer is yes. These rezoning proposals are all separate and distinct, but they can be added to or subtracted from at a later date. So again, every rezoning proposal stands separate. And again, this can be modified with any other action, just like this, for a larger area, different area, etc. So this is not the end all be all. Mr. Ross brought up ADUs, accessory dwelling units. That is the ability to have, forgive my term, like a grandmother's cottage, a cottage on your property for a family member that is not your primary dwelling. Right now, actually, in the mixed use zoning district, that is not written into the code, and they are prohibited. They're not prohibited, they're not allowed. So unfortunately, we have the tough job of people calling us saying, I have an aging parent, you know, someone that wants to move on my property. Can I put a 400 square foot, 600 square foot cabin in the back? The answer right now is no. Under this rural residential rezoning, accessory dwelling units wouldn't be allowed. So that would be, so even though the density is decreasing, there are options for small dwellings to exist on a property with the main residence. The other question I had is about grandfathering of uses, and I'll add to that lots as well. So this is actually written into the code that's already been adopted and is in the book already, that if you have a lot, and if that lot was platted or recorded before this rezoning action is approved, if it is approved, it's grandfathered in. You can actually submit a subdivision application. The state has a law called permit choice. If you submit an application for development or subdivision of your land before a zoning change happens, you are grandfathered in under the old rules, even just by having a paid application in with us. And we've actually talked to some families with family land and have suggested they do that if they want to split it up before any change is made. Grandfathering also applies to uses. So if you have a workshop, a little car repair shop, something like that in the back of your property, but the property is still used for residential purposes. And if this did pass, we are not coming out and going to shut those uses down. Now, there are limits to them because once it changes, those uses are no longer allowed anymore. So again, they can continue to exist, but they can't expand over time. You could make, if you had a little car repair shop and a tree fell on it, you could make repairs if there was a catastrophic event like recently, and the structure was destroyed, you could rebuild, but you just can't, if this was passed, you can't expand that use that no longer would comply with the zoning code. So that's grandfathering of uses and lot sizes. And then, there was the question, why this area first? Again, I touched at the beginning, it started with this annexation conversation, but, through conversations with the planning board and staff, we felt this was the area of town, one that has no public utilities available, at least south of Schoolhouse Road. It is the most rural to date, or remains the most rural. And I know folks have been here a long time, and the definition of rural has changed over time, but we felt this was the most important place to at least take a bite out of the apple and start this first with this proposal. Were there other questions?
I'll just also mention, generally speaking, Mr. Malachek did a great job talking about the specific question. There were also questions regarding, again, the future in general. And so as we had mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, we are also starting with the UDO conversation, Unified Development Ordinance Update. And so over the next 18 months, looking at our codes and our ordinances, looking to update those where applicable, but then also looking at our zoning map and having conversations again around usage and uses moving forward. So there will be many opportunities. Obviously, this is a separate item. I'm just wanting the community to also be aware that there will be more opportunities going forward as the town continues to look for what the current zoning map looks like, what the current UDO states, and then making applicable changes and bring into council. But there will be stakeholder meetings, there'll be public input sessions over the next 18 months, multiple opportunities throughout the process to continue that conversation.
One of the questions from Mike, I asked a while back, how many people have put in or permits or they've heard about this and they're trying to get grandfathered in quickly. Has that number grown substantially? Do you know what that number is?
I don't have the number off the top of my head, forgive me. But it's not increased in, I would say, the last month. There was a scramble of permits submitted. I think when the first notice went out for the planning board special meeting in July. A number of those were properties owned by Big Hills Construction, the Mills River Crossing developer. Again, they're a property owner and they received public notice just like y'all, so they were put on notice.
They're grandfathered.
Yes, and because they submitted those applications, they are allowed to develop under the current rules. We have seen some subdivision applications, again, family subdivisions, some minor subdivisions. I would say maybe 5 to 8, but it hasn't been overwhelming.
So, help me out. I don't know that I've ever seen a election locally or the city of rezone. Is that a possibility? If we have that information on us?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information on me in particular about what would be an appropriate format in order to do an election on such a topic within a subsection of the community. I would say, generally speaking, there may be municipal wide elections that may, where there may be items associated with it that may go up in front of residents in order when they go to vote. But to my knowledge, there is not a way to do a subsection of a community for an election that would be essentially certified enough for us to be able to use that as a decision-making authority. And I mean, generally speaking, as a body, you all are representative of the electorate, an electorate of the body, and by doing so, the item of having a public hearing and voting on it, you are representing the electorate by that vote.
So when you say a subsection of the community could you look into possibly doing a vote of the entire region of Mills River, the town?
I will happily take that back and look to see if there are any opportunities for that. Again, depending on what it looks like, I just don't want to speak on that one way or the other.
Okay.
I would like to thank everybody that this came out tonight and spoke. I have reached out to probably 150 residents and spoke with them about this. A few were for it and the majority opposed. But I've listened to many conversations. And most of what I get out here is density and people want to vote on it. And I think that taking the vote and listening to the residents would be the right thing to do. I do respect landowners' rights, and I think less government in your personal life is a better thing. And I would like to explain the by right. By right for rural residential and the building I would use top building down there. Council had no information on that building going in because it did not come before council. It's the same thing with the rules. Those don't come before council. Those go through the zone department and by right they fit and they go. We're not notified of them. If we are, it's when they come in a weekly report and that's how we find out. I was just as surprised as everybody else was about the size of the tile building that went in. And they have a little space in the rest of its office rooms. But we had nothing to do with that. I think that the zoning needs to be looked at to where the residents still have rights, but the neighboring residents have a say so in it, and we've looked into getting that put in place. Whereas we used to have a system to where what we wanted and what we heard from the residents didn't matter. And we got that changed, so that part's fixed, and that will help with zoning come in. But we still have an issue of by right. So the text amendment that we passed back on June 13. And at that time, I wanted to table it because I had so much feelings about that. That I didn't think that it was good for the residents. And I was told that we needed to pass it to get y'all up out of your cities. Well, bravo, we did. And personally, I would like to rescind this vote. I would like for the council to consider it. And I would like some more homework done on this. To take out some of the restrictions, telling you what you can and can't do with your property. And give the power back to the people. They own the property and they pay the tax. So I'm hoping that council will consider rescinding this. And look at this and get it put in place and clean this up. I hear a lot about density. I like Mill Sugar Rural. I've lived here my whole life and it has grown, it has changed. But you need to pay attention and have smart growth. The businesses we have in here now pay a large percentage of tax. And that helps keep the residents' taxes low. And we try to maintain that and use resources wisely. So I hope that we can continue looking at smart industry. And let the residents have a voice in how they live. And the freedoms to choose what they want. And that we can just be good stewards and continue to serve people. But we need to keep hearing from them. Because we are a panel of five. And y'all, while we're here, it's not a dictatorship and it's not a problem. We're here to be your voices. So when people say that your choices are made by you, that's not true. I reach out to people and I try to talk to people. I see hundreds of people every week at the farmer's market when I go. I see people when I go to different places, businesses, even where I work, I see people. And I always welcome input from Mill Sugar River. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just make a couple of comments, and first and foremost, thank everyone for coming out tonight and for your comments. I would say that I sat through the master class in the common sense and the passionate love for the community. I learned a lot tonight, and it really affects the way that I want to move forward as one member of this council. I think we need more options before us, and we need to figure out if there's a way in which residents can weigh in on these options. I don't want to just have a binary choice of take it or leave it. I really think that we can do a better job, put in the work, and give you a better array of options to look at that is better tailored to meet the needs and the things that we learned here tonight. So again, thank you for coming out, and I look forward to taking a deeper dive on this and coming up with some better options. Yes, thank you for coming. I am for this with some changes. I'm concerned that the more we talk about this, then we can kick it further and further, the slide developers come in. Hold on. We're not. I don't think it's. I'm not ready to, I'm not ready to vote on this. We at least, in my opinion, need to look at the 280 corridor, and there's some pieces that need to be looked at. I just concerns me a little bit to say that we're gonna put it all and put it on a ballot in 2 years.
If I may, just for my clarification, when you were mentioning voting on this item, my brain, and Councilmember Mitchell also mentioned a ballot initiative of some sort. We do have an ability, I do know that we had a survey that went out, good faith effort survey that went out during this process. I know that there are questions regarding that survey. One item that we can do is to make a statistical ballot survey. It'll take time and energy and effort to make sure that we put that forward, but that is one option that we as staff, council, so request for us to do, that we can try to lift up that type of survey and start working on that. Again, it will, the previous survey was a free survey resource, that was just resource intensive internally. But to do something like this, we would probably have to go through a firm in order to ensure that there is accuracy with that, but it would not be waiting a couple of years for ballot of some sort of.
I understand that. The only problem I got with that is the trust factor. If we're going to vote on it, we gotta have to talk to the board of elections and see if we can make something like that happen. If it's a possibility, I can't guarantee it's a possibility, but I think it's a great idea. Then we get the word of the people and we decide on that. Because I told everybody from the start, I'm gonna give them a majority. Whatever it is. And if we heard it right, it's mixed. So it's better to stay in office. So this is what we need to do. I will tell you this. One way, it's kind of what we're talking about. I wouldn't leave it at that. I go on vacation with one brother together, but I can't wait to get back. But I can tell you, every time I get back to the try to get that off. I mean, it's just right where I want to do. I ain't that something. I ain't that good. But that's me. I'm just one person. And I won't be influenced by it. I promise you. When I say the majority, I say the majority. That's what I'll do. I'm 30%. Each and every one of y'all, and y'all can do this. I'm trying to think for the kids. I mean, you know, I'm 56-year-old. My best life behind me. But there's a lot of others coming in front of us, that could really enjoy this place if we can save a little bit of what we can send away there. They can really do it. And they can say what they want, but they wouldn't change the way they grew up before they grew up in this world. They was neighbors. I knew each and every one of them growing up. And I could get that. Their dad ruled with a stern fist, but he was an awesome man. And we're part of that dialogue, like each and every one of us here has done. Because if you didn't have any inkling a care for your property. You wouldn't be here, that's you watching TV, but y'all are here. So y'all get my utmost respect for that. I say that. But I want to get the staff to look at if there's a possibility to get this voted on, then everybody's gonna be satisfied. But we gotta make sure it happens in a timely fashion. Either way, however we do it, we gotta figure out if it can be done. I will tell you, it's gonna cost money, because anything we put on that election, or even on the regular ballot, costs us money. But something this big will be well worth it. We just gotta figure out as citizens if we're willing to wait till 2 years to get on the regular ballot or not. And then if not, then we trust the survey, because that's what we're talking about, the survey.
I mean, it would not be the survey voting tool that we use, it would be a survey form along with that to use this.
I mean, I understand, but, I'm 56, so I don't trust that anything good in the future. I got my handshakes and thumbs up and thumbs down, so I got them. Okay, so in saying that, I need a motion from someone, so you want to.
The text amendment that we passed back on June 13th. Named a lot of stuff in there. And before we move ahead with the vote, I would like to make a motion that we rescind the vote on that text amendment and get some of the verbiage out of there that is restricted. I would be interested in having this pass, but the way this is in place, and they said that it's there, but it's not applied. Well, if this goes through, this could be applied. And I'm very much interested in keeping Mills River with the rural characteristic. But at the same time, I want to not tie the hands of the residents. So I would like to make a motion that we rescind the vote for text amendment 2402, establish rural residential zoning district, and look at redoing it with the verbiage that would better meet the people's needs.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we are not able to take a motion during the public hearing, so we would have to move to close the public hearing or move to recess the public hearing, and then at that point, after the public hearing is closed, then you may entertain a motion.
I'll like that.
Okay, anyone else up here? So I need a motion to. Either approve the time or to reset it to table.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, so if I may, so item number 10 in your packet, for one of the back. First, you must move to either close the public hearing or to recess the public hearing, and then at that point, if it is moved to close, then there may be an option to approve or deny or table, but then we first must close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public. Second. You got a question? They'll come into discussion. Second for James, any discussion?
We not be recessing this, so we can.
You may. Sorry, I just wanted to check, Councilman Cantrell, or you're asking staff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends. It is up to council whether or not you would like to recess the public hearing. By doing so, the public hearing would then be recessed to a future meeting where then you can continue to have comment and have discussion on said item. Right, until the public hearing is closed, you are not allowed, you are not able to move forward with approving or denying. The moment the public hearing is closed, council, if it so chooses, may vote to approve, deny, or table. The recess only allows you to table it essentially to a future meeting.
We're discussing, but I think if. So help me understand, I think if, instead of recessing this, if we're sending this back, we shouldn't recess it until we get a chance to see if they can vote on it. I think we would be better off just to close this session. And either move to deny or approve, or to table it to a later date.
That is one of your options, yes, sir. So it depends on the council, if the majority wishes to recess and continue the public hearing at a future date. Or by closing it, as I mentioned, you're able to actually make a decision to approve, deny, or table the decision to a later date.
If we did deny it tonight, we could just have another public hearing, we just have to re-advertise, correct? And yes.
Yes, if it's denied, and if you would have to have another rezoning or text amendment action initiated first. So again, if it was denied, and if council directed staff to draft something else up, whether it's a text amendment change to the code itself or another rezoning action, we would then move forward with that and notice that as a separate hearing.
I'm interested in putting this off as long as it takes, because there's residents in Hammond with people wanting to get this moved through. So I would like to say let's table it for now, and we can get some other things took care of, and then bring it back up as soon as possible. That we have to go through the plan forward, and everybody have all the meetings and make it last longer and longer.
Okay, I understand, but I'm also sure if we, change a lot of verbiage in anything here, we're gonna be back in a public hearing situation, is that correct? Yes. Okay, so I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? To close? Okay. You ready to close? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yeah. So now we're going to the last of the public hearing. Is closed, now it's not make a decision. We're going to. Otherwise, we're going to take it.
And if I may, just for one point of clarification, on page 3 in your document, if a council member so chooses one of those items, we respectfully ask that that council member use the language that is within those 3 sections.
If we take that one.
If we take this now, can we get this cleaned up? And get it fixed more so I want the residents are.
That would be a separate public.
Okay. Then I make a motion to table this vote on R 2402 more residential rezoning till the future date.
So I got a first. I think that's better on that. I got a first and it's Jeff second. Any discussion?
Don't think that this is gonna be such a change that it would be more advantageous to deny it and send it back to planning board.
Yeah, thank you, forever.
No matter the council's action. If there's rezoning, proposed rezoning changes, we need to give the public another opportunity to comment on that, which is why we basically start the rezoning process over, which would include review and recommendation by the planning board and then another public hearing for council. Even if there are changes, because we need to renotice the public.
But I understand, even if I don't make any changes to it, but it's still will be re-noticed and there is a chance talking, correct? Because you can, we're not gonna do these very much. And I'm not a school. They can teach you that.
But. Oh, no, so I'll just make sure, so if it's council desire to make changes to this item. And I'm gonna look at Mr. Malinchak over here to make sure that he's not telling me I'm saying things completely wrong here. Then if you table it and then want to make text amendment changes. And during this process, essentially what it's doing is that it's going to be tabling the current item in front of you. It would still be basically restarting, so therefore it would be a denial at some point after this table, correct? If the tabling happens and then council chooses to make those text amendment changes, then there would have to be a vote at a later time to deny, and it would start that process over. Correct?
So we have to read that a little bit.
I will withdraw my motion to table it and make the motion to deny R 2402 full residential rezoning as presented.
I think everybody would like to know which is quicker. Because with all this tabling rules and denials, we want to know what's quicker. And that's what we want.
For what I'm saying, we're gonna, for what I said, even if we do it and we change this, we're gonna have to come back in session and deny this and go for another one to get the other one in place.
Typically, on these things, if we make more than 3 or 4% change of anything, you know, there's a possibility that this thing could be the whole green section, what we really want to do. It would be, you know, even connected with that, we'd have to notice everybody. You know, and let them all speak if they want to speak. Is that correct? Yes, please shake his head.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just because following the procedure, public hearing has officially closed. And so taking questions from the, public hearing would be reopened. No, it technically could be reopened, but as of this moment, public hearing is closed. It's, I would recommend that council.
With that, let me see if we can take any question from there. We can in just a minute. We got to finish up what we're doing here in our official business, and then we can seek on staff, everybody gets this thing rolling.
Okay, it would review the items.
I got a motion to, for the now. Need a second. James, second. Any more discussion?
I'm a little concerned about denying it is what we heard tonight. It's the room is split versus support versus opposition. That tells me we don't have what we need in front of us. If we table it and we come back with another map, maybe 2 other maps, come back with different language in this rural residential with more uses, less uses. But it's telling me we're not where we need to be yet. But to my understanding, tabling it would allow us to come back with more options, which that's what I get out of tonight, sitting up here, is that we're not close to the market yet, but we need a map that shows all Mills River going to rural residential or changing the text of it. So I'm not really in favor of denying it, because I think this is one option, the map that's been put out there and the district that we've approved, and that's on the books right now. I think that's still a viable option, and we may want to act on that. So I don't want to just dispense with it now. I want to keep that as an option, but I think we need to add more. So to your point, Sandra, that I don't think I'm supportive of denying this, because this may be end up approving. And I don't want to let it throw it out just because we need to look more options.
Yeah. Okay. If I may, Mr. Mayor, council, I would caution, I don't want to confirm at this moment that by tabling it, we could bring other options in the public hearing for you to consider. All right, because right now, as it's written, you're voting to approve or deny the current one as presented in front of you. And so by by creating other options. I'm not exactly sure that we're able to present those as a part of the discussion during the public hearing aspect of it. What we would have to do is, so for instance, hypothetically, if we brought two other options for council to consider while recessing the public hearing, tabling the public hearing, if the council chooses one of those other options, they would then have to still deny this current one in front of you. And then start the rezoning process with another option. So it's still be something to, there wouldn't be a quick, option 2 is a better option, we're gonna deny this and automatically vote on that other option. And we would start to go through the rezoning process at that time with another option if it becomes more suitable.
Any more discussion?
Serious.
Yeah, we're not.
If we have more options, it won't result in reopening this session. I mean, we closed it. The only thing we've done is we take a decision on it. In my mind, we're taking a decision, the other one next forward, or at least I want to put more options. And so I think it's appropriate to table the decision. We're not tabling the public hearing, we close the public hearing. That's in the past, the way I understand it, so. My preference is, unless I'm violating the rules of order or state law, I just do table decision tonight. We have a motion on the table to deny it. I want to convey to the council that I'm not supportive of denying it. That's maybe something. I just think it's the only option that should be considered.
Understood. I'm just Councilmember Young. I just, and Mr. Malinchak, made a good point. As council, by tabling it, you're able to consider other concepts for rezone during this time. However, if council so chooses to want to move forward with another one of those concepts, that would then start that other process. And then there would still be a vote to deny this at a later time. But that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to make sure that we were aware that it wasn't tabling this decision, looking at options, and then at that later point, make a decision on this and those other options. We would still have to restart the rezoning process with those other options. But we can still provide concepts for council for consideration before you make a final decision.
We can table it. I know you know, but let's just make sure we're clear here. The way I understand it, we can table this tonight. Leave it as is. Look at other options, check on the possibility of making a vote as quick as possible. Even if it's a special election, I don't know how that works, but it might work. And then, if we break it down, we bring other options in, then we have to, in our other meeting, a regular meeting, we'll have to go in and turn this one down and start the process over.
We vote on this to table it. Is this still in place? So we voted past that. Okay, well. Pick which one more.
You know me, I'm the top of here, but you don't want me to know, because I'm in the rules. But anyway, so I've got one thing you need to. Do I have a second on that? That's right, James said that. Okay, so any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Got 2 and 2. I mean, let's be here. So the reason I want to deny is because we're going to get it denied anyway. If we change this thing for the meeting, it's just the way it works. And we're gonna have to go through the process again. It's gonna be after the first of the year with everything we got going on. But, that's just why I said no. Any clarification from council on the split vote? We have revoted yet, right?
So, as of right now, the vote being 2-2 means that the vote to deny was not approved. So you have to have a majority vote to approve one of those selections. So at this point, the motion has been, the motion to deny has been introduced.
Everything by the motion.
We table the decision on zoning matter and the rural residential designation to a later date.
All right, I got a motion to that. So, all in favor, Michael says. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna talk next. You want to discuss about? All in favor? Any opposed? Aye. Okay, so it's 3-1. To the table. Okay. Well, staff, get it in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I need clarification from Michael or might have. So Sandra is going to consider the motion to rescind this, what was it called? Establish a rural residential zoning district. That affects them for such. So when we normally need to put this on the letter for the January. It'll be a public issue also, correct? Yeah.
Indicated council develops the board, council brings up during other business, and then we get to act on that item.
Somebody can say
We were so close. Couple more items.
Okay. Discussion on the consumption of
Mr. Mayor, I just requested you using a minute or two, just so we know that some people are moving for, that'll give us a moment to ask. I found my answer there. All right, thank you, council, for your patience there. So, as a reminder, at our October 10th council meeting, council approved a special meeting for November 7th. For the purpose of conducting, the R 2401, or also known as the Brown Rig zoning public hearing. After that public, during that meeting, prior to the setting of the special meeting of public hearing, the applicant presented and requested feedback from council on any conditions that they felt may be appropriate for their zoning application. And as a reminder, they are filing it under a conditional rezoning application, which allows council members to provide thoughts, feedback, and conditions that they would like to see on the application prior to the actual public hearing vote. One of the uses of a conditional zoning. So the after that meeting, applicant reached out to me and requested that council would consider postponing that special meeting just because of the consideration of everything going on in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. They felt that with everything going on, that it may be more appropriate to table that public hearing until next time, so that they may be able to consider continue working on their application, and then also to hear more feedback from council prior to going towards that public hearing. I want to be very careful because this is my interpretation of what their request was. This is not debating what the request is. But at the end of the day, they were requesting that the council consider postponing the special meeting, postponing the public hearing that's associated with that until a future meeting at a future time.
vote on it and we're gonna keep it on the seven. I think I told you. I first got like that we did this with the townhomes and that was. I don't know, the first meeting. So we know about it, I don't have any questions for that. So I'm not gonna make up my others involved. And I think we need to take it now before the election, with everybody who's saying that.
Any other comment on council here about it? I don't know that we can make them show up for it. I mean, so.
Just for clarification, the meeting in the special meeting and the public hearing is still scheduled for November seventh. So if the council so chooses to want to move forward with that date, you would just move to deny this item. And so therefore it will continue to move forward on November seventh.
Keep this meeting on November. Correct. I think I'm the only thing on that meeting. Correct.
It's currently the only item.
We got that first, about a second. Jeff said. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yeah. You got that?
Thank you, council.
Moving on, we got to look at the lease agreement with Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, so council, again, trying to be brief, I know there's speaking a little bit later, but so as a reminder, in March, 2024, the council entered into a contract or into a lease agreement with Mr. Bradley Johnston for the unimproved portion of the town-owned property that's located behind Town Hall and Park property. It's the old area on the back there as well. And so, the purpose of that lease was to allow Mr. Johnston to farm on that property until beginning or ending on March 1st, 2025. So as the community continues to recover from Tropical Storm Helene, the Henderson County reached out to us and asked if we would be amenable to finding a storm debris site in Mills River that would be resident focused and resident, and that would allow for our residents to have a central location instead of taking it directly to the transfer station or just waiting until the debris contractors they pick up at in the right of way. And so to try and meet that need, I began working with and working through with a potential site selection, even the site selection that would be most open to that would be on that problem. And so what is before you is an amended contract with Mr. Johnston, who is amenable to these changes. To end upon this contract ending on November 1st. The prorated, so you'll see that under a make lease agreement, item 1. Item number 2 would be modifying the total amount of fixed rent down to $5,500 to $3,166.67. So that's because the lease would be ending 4 months early. And then under the conservation practices would amend removing the sentence after completing harvest of this many crops, tenant shall plan to recover profit on floodplain areas of the property. And so that requirement would just come back to the town of Mills River. By approving this amendment and providing me the opportunity to sign that amendment, then we will be able to enter into a contract with the County of Hendersonville, the County of Henderson, to start working on finding the appropriate size and selection of that site. And we're currently working through the items of that. I'm happy to talk a little bit. I don't want to get too ahead of that contract, and right now it's not currently written, it's still in discussions. But I'm happy to talk generally if there are questions about that. So that is what this is to do. It's allowed for that lease to end, that property to come back to the town, and then for the town to be able to use it as it deems appropriate starting on November.
Any questions?
I have a question or concern that the crop is not 10 acres starting first, and that top 10 acres wouldn't need to have, cover crop, because it's not in floodway. So tell me about how.
So the current contract, under the current contract, the only area where a cover crop that's required would be the lower floodplain portion of that property. So there's no requirement currently stating that it needed to be the entire property needed to be a cover crop.
So I was in many of these discussions, and the reason, everything that they're picking is they're not harvesting, it's gotta be done because it was in flood. So, that bottom portion, they're going to get their hand off before they run that. Harvester through there, the reason I run the harvester through that is to plant the corn kernels. Because it is, Roundup ready. If I get push on it, it's slinging it over, it's gonna come up voluntarily. And it's gonna take all the nutrients from the road, probably a better than normal has. But there's a chance that once that come up, if it gets very deep in the soil, protected by trees and the rot.
No,
Exactly. But it's gotta get in the wall, make sure there's no law on anything.
Top 10 for this summer. Bradley's already got his. Already got the crop off of that. Crop, each portion of it. So we don't. The bottom, yeah, it can take until March 1st to get it. We need to get it. I'm confused as to why there's this. The way you're ending this contract with them. And in good faith, only he's gonna come and pick up his corn.
And if I may, just a clarification, the contract itself technically ends November 1st, and as it is currently drafted in. So he would not have until March 1st in order to remove the corn. And by what this is currently stated, it's November 1st. However, we do know that because of the situation, the extraordinary situation that is down there with the floodplain, that it may take longer for that to be removed. And so that would be a conversation that I would be happy to have to try to make sure that he meets the expectations of that part of the contract as soon as possible. But it's not, I just wanted to clarify, it's not directly tied to the March 1st deadline. The question about why the blanket ending of the contract relative to just the 10 acres is really about, part of it was in regards to just the prorating aspect of the way this contract works. Right now, the county has come to us and said they would like to have at least 10 acres because by the state of North Carolina, you have to have a minimum of 10 acres so you can have enough boundary around the side so you can have 8 acres. But as part of that conversation and by council's direction, there could be conversation about what that site actually looks like, what it may have, the size of the settlers. That's why I didn't want to get too ahead of the contract itself. Essentially, that just allows us as a town to then hold the full right of that site again, or effectively, I think the difference is about $1,800. That would then allow us to have conversations about potential, planning of that property 4 months earlier than we would otherwise have. So that was part of it. Part of it was the ease of which being able to prorate that under the contract, being able to just clearly state instead of trying to parse out those 10 acres.
You good? All right, so we pulled this off consent agenda, so we need a motion to approve this, give the signature right to this contract to our town manager or deny this. What's it gonna be?
We will have conversations about the new lease. This is not, we are in no way signing this, that
We good? I didn't understand the question.
I just nodded, so he's asking if this in any way affects the potential new lease next year, if there is even.
Yeah, so these lease agreements are 1 year lease agreements, so, it would be up to council if they so chose. At a future time to go into another lease agreement.
I'm clarifying that we're gonna be able to go on or see the new lease agreement from the county.
Oh, with the county, yeah, so, I mean, I would have to again go back to what our contracting laws are and sort of the value of it, but yes, the plan is for that to come to council for discussion and consideration.
So I think that motion to approve or deny this way. About a second. James, second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Now, I think we're ready to move on to our other business. And we only have some. Okay. Only thing else, something here with, when they get along, just think about it. Was this place better 20 years ago? Was it like it better than we ever? Let's see, well, anything else? That any other business?
Just for final clarification, there was not any other business that was moved at that time, okay.
Just a parking lot.
That's fine, it's understandable.
Well, just put it over there. David, second. Second. I ain't gonna ask you. I'm not saying that.